Hello friends, good morning to all of you. Today I am again back with Locomotion and Movement part 3 of 11th standard. In this session, we are going to discuss about skeletal system, axial skeleton, appendicular skeleton, skull, vertebral column, sternum and ribs, functions of vertebral column and ribs, pectoral and pelvic girdle. So let us start the session. First of all, we will discuss about skeletal system. The hard, supportive or protective elements of the animal body form the skeletal system. Thus, it forms the bony framework of the body, providing support and protection for some of the soft organs, particularly in the skull and pelvis. It also acting as layers in movement and producing surface for the attachment of skeletal muscles. In certain part, cartilage is also present instead of bone. The study of skeletal system is called osteology, and there are two types of a skeleton depending upon the location. That is, they may be exoskeleton or may be endoskeleton. First of all, it is about exoskeleton. Exoskeleton derived either from epidermis or dermis of the skin. The exoskeleton consists of hard parts present on the surface of the body. It is found in the invertebrate as well as vertebrates. The exoskeleton structure in mammal are scales or scutes, that is the bony external plate or scale overlaid with horn of keratin, horns, nails, hooves, hairs, etc. Next one is endoskeleton. Endoskeleton derived from mesoderm. It includes the hard part present inside the body. The cartilage and bones are example of endoskeleton structures in the vertebrates. They are located internal to muscles. Human skeletal system consists of 206 pieces of bones and is divided into two main parts, axial skeleton and appendicular skeleton, each having different subparts also. Here in this figure, it is about a skeletal. You may observe. Now let us study about axial skeleton. Axial skeleton occupy the body's main longitudinal axis of the body. It includes four structures, namely skull present in the head, vertebral or spinal column present in neck and trunk, sternum, and 12 pairs of ribs in the thorax. In this figure, you may visualize the anterior and posterior view of axial system. Now it is about appendicular skeleton. It is placed in the side axis. It comprises pectoral and pelvic girdles and limb bones. 30 bones in each limbs are present. Girdles connect the limb bones with the vertebral column. In this figure, you may observe pectoral and pelvic girdle. Now it is about a skull. The skull is present in the head. It is supported on the top of vertebral column and is made up of hardest and densest bones in the human body. It consists of cranial and facial bone. Cranial bone or cranium is large, hollow, rounded part of the skull. Its cavity is termed as cranium or cranial cavity. It encloses the brain, so cranium is called as brain box. because brain is enclosed inside the cranium. Cranium bones are 8 in number. Out of 8 bones, 1 is occipital, 2 are temporal, 1 is sphenoid, 1 is ethmoid bone. Cranial bones forms the hard protective covering cranium for the brain. Facial bone composed of 14 bones. This includes 2 nasal bones, 2 maxillae, 2 palatines, 2 zygomatic, 2 lacrimal, and 2 inferior nasal canthi, 1 vomer, and 1 mandible. There is single U-shaped bone called hyoid bone, which is present at the base of the buccal cavity, and it is also included in the skull. Hyoid bone is also called as tongue bone. Middle ear consists of 3 small bones called malleus, incus, and stapes, which are collectively called ear ossicles, and these bones helps in hearing. Here it is the figure of a skull showing different bones. You may observe here. Now the next topic of today's session is vertebral column. Vertebral column is also called backbone or a spine. It is a flexible curved vertical rod and it is formed by 26 serially arranged units called vertebrae, and it is dorsally placed. Though it is altogether 33, but 5 sacral vertebrae fused and 4 caudal vertebrae is also fused. So it is altogether 26 only. The vertebrae are held together by ligaments which prevent their dislocation but permits a degree of movement also, making the backbone flexible. Vertebral column extends from the base of the skull and constitutes the main framework of the trunk. Each vertebra has a central hollow portion, that is neural canal, through which the spinal cord passes. First vertebra is called atlas. The vertebrae are grouped into 5 categories. The number of vertebrae in these categories varies in different mammals. In human being, the 5 categories are cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, coccygeal, also called caudal. There are 7 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, 5 but fused to 1 is sacral, 4 but fused to 1 is caudal or coccygeal. It is the diagram of vertebral column showing different groups of vertebrae, that is cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacrum, coccygeal or caudal. Now the next topic is a sternum and ribs. The sternum is a long, narrow, flat vertical bone in the middle of the front wall of the chest or thorax. It plays a role in respiratory mechanism also. The ribs are curved bars and 12 pairs in number. It is movably articulate with the thoracic vertebrae at the back and unite with the sternum in front and forms a bony case called thoracic basket. Out of 12 pairs of ribs, the upper 7 pair of ribs are attached in front directly to the sternum, and these are called true ribs. The next 3 pairs of ribs are joined to the ribs above each other and are called false ribs. The lower 2 pairs of ribs are free in front, called as floating ribs. So there are 3 types of ribs: true ribs, false ribs, and floating ribs. In the given figure, you may observe the ribs and rib case. Now let us see about the function of vertebral column. Vertebral column acts as a firm support of the body. It strengthens the neck and trunk for upright posture while we are standing and walking. It also supports the rib laterally and provides flexibility. Next is about functions of ribs. Ribs helps in protecting our heart, large blood vessels as well as lungs. It plays an important role in respiratory system or respiration. The last two floating ribs helps in protection of kidneys. Now next topic is appendicular skeleton. Appendicular skeleton is placed in the side axis and it consists of pectoral and pelvic girdles as well as limb bones. Each limb bone is made up of 30 bones. The bones of hands are humerus, radius and ulna, carpals called as wrist bone and are 8 in number, metacarpals called as palm bones and are 5 in number, and phalanges called digits and are 14 in number. So thus altogether 30 bones are present in our hand. The bones of leg are femur, that is thigh bone and it is largest bone, tibia and fibula, tarsals called ankle bone and are 7 in number, metatarsal 5 in number, and phalanges which are 14 in number. There is a cup shaped bone called patella which covered the knee ventrally. This is the figure showing bones of hand. It is also about bones of hand. It is also about the anterior and posterior view of bones of hand. Here it is about the bones of hand showing carpals, metacarpals and phalanges. Now it is the bones of leg. Here it is about anterior and posterior view of bones of leg. It is the femur bone which is the largest bone of the body. Now the next topic is pectoral girdle. Pectoral girdle consists of two bones, scapula and clavicle. Scapula is a large triangular flat bone which is situated in the dorsal part of the thorax between 2nd and 7th ribs, whereas clavicle is a long slender bone with two curvatures, and it is called as collarbone. In the given figure, you may observe the articulated pectoral girdle, right clavicle superior view and right clavicle inferior view. Now it is about pelvic girdle. Pelvic girdle consists of two coxal bone and each coxal bone is formed by the fusion of three bones, ilium, ischium and pubis. At the point of fusion of the three bones, there is a cavity called as acetabulum to which the thigh bone articulates. This is the diagram which shows about pelvic girdle showing ilium, ischium and pubis. So this is end of the session. Thank you. For any kind of doubts, please write your question in comment section.